Track 10. Afterglow. Voltron is a beautiful sight. The light rigs and sound system are unlike anything else in the city, courtesy of Pidge, Hunk, and Matt. Not to mention a lot of gear smuggled out of the upper city from Rollo and Naima. With every pound of the bass, the whole building vibrates. A heartbeat. A reverberation that everyone feels down to their bones. Something that connects them all. Ground them. Keeps them glued to the floor as their bodies writhe on the dance floor. Keeps them anchored when their high takes them far from here. The lights that flash, shifting the roving through colors, through patterns. They're designed to give a good show. To take a high and make it a trip. Designed to avoid all that baggage and triggers. Only good sparks and neurons in the brain, or whatever. Lance isn't up to date on the science. That's Matt's thing. All Lance knows is that it makes this club beautiful. Makes the chrome white decorations shine. Ignites the decor with every color on the goddamn rainbow. Allura and Corin poured a lot of love into this place. Kept it from being just another ratty club on the strip. Just another spot of noise and color in the depths of the lower city. Yeah, it's flashy, but it's more. Not just covering up cracked cement floors, grimy bar tops, and dirty windows with bad drugs and bright lights. Nah. None of that ish. Voltron ain't a rouse. Fixed up building, kept up to date and actually maintained. All that money Allura managed to get before her dad went under poured back into this place. Made a good base of operations as she strikes out on her own. And a lot of their money pours back into it. A place like this could easily fit in the upper city, all sparkling and pristine. A place for the richer types to get a taste of the underworld. To see what it's like to live like them without actually having to dip down to the streets. Allura could make it big up there, but she doesn't want that. She likes it down here. So do the rest of them. They've seen too much. Done too much. Lived too much. Up there? Ish is blinding. Ish is atop a tower set to crumble. Down here? They got nowhere to go but up. Besides, they've got business down here. Professional and personal. If they leave, the Galra will run amok again. Make Ish worse down here for people who don't deserve that. People who get ignored by those with actual power. That's fine. That's what the paladins are for. To stick out for the little guy. To keep this city running properly. To give a ish when no one else in this ishty world will. Yeah, Lance likes it just fine down here. Better to live down here like kings, than live up there like scum. So yeah, Voltron is a beautiful sight. Good building. Good decor. Good lights. Good music. Good drinks. Good drugs. Good morals. Home sweet home. Lance lifts his glass to his lips, taking a long pull of something that comes on sweet but goes down with a burn. One of Corin's new concoctions. Lowers the glass, head tilting in consideration. Licking his lips. Not bad. He lowers his arm once more, leaning forward, both forearms resting against the railing at their club top balcony. The exclusive area. Paladins only. From here, he can see the whole club below. Bodies writhing in a mass, indistinguishable from one another, shifting in time with the beat, lit up with neon and alive. Truly and undeniably alive. The uffs in the upper city may think they've got living down to an art, but nothing is quite as alive as the lower city. Down here, this is where people really understand. Really know what it's like to embrace what little time they all have. Uff, it's good to be home, he says, head bobbing idly to the beat. Uff king men, he hears Pidge say from the lounge couches behind him. I'll drink to that. You'll drink to anything, Matt jabs. Uff off. I'm basking in the afterglow. And that's just what they're doing, isn't it? Running on the leftover adrenaline and fumes of the thrill. Of victory. Of a successful mission. Of Uff King diving into the biggest fight they've been in for a while and coming out alive. They found Shiro. They've got 2 new paladins. They have a strong alliance with the Blade. They're working on deals with the garrison. They uffed up a huge part of the Empire's slave fighting ring bullish. They're staking claim, pushing the Galra back, and now they're home. Living like kings. Caught up in the afterglow. Lance idly taps a finger against the glass dangling in his grip, hovering over the dance floor below, enjoying the click of his rings as they make contact. He watches the doors below like a hawk. Alert. Attention fixated, even as a pleasant buzz tingles through his veins. He waits. And waits. And, there. Keith and Shiro step into the club, breezing past the bouncers at the door with sharp nods. And damn do they look good. Even from this distance, at his perch high above, Lance can admire them. Shiro's gained a lot of strength since they've gotten back. Though, the healing pod they nicked from the garrison a couple years back certainly has a lot to do with that. Point is, he's standing on his own now. Tall and confident. His eyes are still haunted. Still sharp as they look over his shoulder. Still has moments where everything becomes tight and tense and Keith or Matt has to talk him down from wherever he is. But he's starting to look more like the man Lance remembers. The commander, mentor, and teacher at the garrison. The guy Lance always admired and wanted to be. He might have once been cut from military cloth, and Lance might have once said nothing suited him more than a uniform, but he now sees that he was wrong. Dressed for the streets. Combat boots. Leather straps for his weapons. A long jacket with a paladin logo emblazoned on it in black. Scars that cut across his features. Eyes that would give anyone chills. The glow of his new cybernetic arm. Yeah, he fits in just fine down here. Looks like he damn near belongs in the lower city. Who knows? Maybe he does. And at his side, Keith cuts an impressive figure of his own. A figure that draws Lance's attention for more reasons. Because hot damn, does his man look fine. His hair is longer. Still in that braid Lance did for him earlier today, runaway strands falling free to frame his face. He's got scars of his own, though Lance knows the extent of them far more intimately than just the ones that show. All tall confidence, chill held high, tension from the streets oozing out of his shoulders as he melds with the atmosphere. He stands there like he belongs here. Which, Lance supposes, he does. He's traded in his black and purple blade jacket for a new one. A red and black one. Fake leather, soft and worn, despite being new. Cut short at the torso, showing off where his shirt clings to a narrow waist. On the back is the paladin symbol, bold and bright in red. They pause as they reach the dance floor, and Keith, hands in his pockets, tilts his head back. Meets Lance's eye. Smiles this devilish little smirk that never fails to make Lance's insides twist. And then Lance turns sauntering back over to the little circle of couches propped up on a dais. Specifically for him and his friends. The paladins. Owners. VIPs. Kings and queens. He steps up and lets himself drop onto one of the couches. Legs stretched out. Leaning back into a corner with one arm on the armrest and the other stretched out over the back cushion. His glass dangles from his fingertips. Keith and Shiro are back. About time, Pidge mumbles, sitting cross-legged across the couch, sunken into the cushions, lost in whatever she's typing on her datapad. How do you think it went? Hunk lays on another couch, eyes distant and pupils blown. He's idly tapping his fingers on his stomach, in a rhythm somewhat matching the music below. Feet propped up in Matt's lap. $50 says the garrison told them to F off. You're on. Matt makes a show of shaking Hunk's boot to seal the deal. Lance lifts the drink to his lips. Sipping gently. Feeling the bump of ice. Eyes locked on the entrance. Feeling his insides thrumming with excitement. Taut with anticipation. And then Shiro and Keith are sweeping past the bouncers, sauntering right on into the paladin's upper floor. Like they belong. Because they do. Lance grins around the rim of his glass, locking eyes with Keith. There's barely a pause in his stride as he makes his way over to Lance. Takes the glass out of loose fingertip grip. Wraps his other hand beneath Lance's chin to tilt his head back just as he leans down. Captures Lance's mouth in a heated, messy kiss. Uncoordinated. All tongue and teeth. It makes Lance's toes curl. Then Keith is pulling back, giving Lance this private little smirk, eyes lidded as he lifts Lance's glass to his lips and downs the rest of the drink. Lance can't bring himself to mind, eyes fixed on the bob of Keith's throat. How'd it go? Matt asks. Keith grunts. Shrugs. Drops the glass carelessly on the table as he practically throws himself down onto the couch, nestled right up in Lance's lap. Like he belongs there. Because he does. The garrison are pricks. What else is new? They're just wary, Shiro says as he steps up to them, arms crossed loosely over his chest. It's not every day an old missing presumed dead commander and an expelled cadet come knocking on their door asking about deals with one of the gangs of the Undercity. Yeah, well, they'd be stupid not to take us up on the offer. Lance's hand finds Keith's hip. Slides up his side. Down his thigh. With their help, we could really get rid of the Galra for good. Tear down the Empire and actually protect this city. They needs us as much as we need them. Hunk reaches back, waving a hand toward Shiro until it makes contact with his jacket. Fingers uncoordinated as they curl into the fabric and tug lightly. He looks back at Shiro, grin goofy and wide. So? How'd it go? Shiro shrugs. It's a work in progress. Where's Allura? I should report to her. Hunk lets go of Shiro's coat to wave in the direction of the bar. In the back room. Talking to Rommel, I think. Something about some new concoction? Actually, maybe I should be there, too. Was I supposed to be there for that? They watch as Matt and Shiro help Hunk off the couch, half carrying him and half watching him stumble toward the back room. Hey, Pidge, Keith says, leaning back against Lance's chest, hair tickling just below his chin. She lifts a brow but doesn't bother looking up from her screen. Her eyes have the same hazy quality of Hunk's, but there's a focus in them. One that's relentless and unforgiving. Did you have time to work on that quint blend I asked about? Oh, yeah, right. Eyes still fixed to her screen, she digs around in a pocket, pulling out a little box and tossing it vaguely in their direction. Catch. Keith does, despite the throw being way off mark. He presses his finger to the little screen at the top. Watches the light flash. Takes the little square of quint that's dispensed before turning to Lance, holding it up as an offering. Lance opens his mouth. Obliging. Trusting. It starts to dissolve the moment Keith lays it on his tongue. Cinnamon. Vanilla. Sugar. I asked Pidge to work on a new flavor. Lance's brows furrow, lips pursed, but not because it tastes bad, but because these taste like my mom's cookies. Keith's eyes are practically sparkling. Smile wide and pleased. Good. He takes a hit himself, nuzzling into Lance's chest. Tucking himself in Lance's arms and beneath his chin as their high starts to settle in. Neither of them say anything as the tingling feeling spreads through their limbs. As the taste of vanilla and spice settle on their tongues. They ain't got nowhere to go, caught up in the afterglow.
They step outside in the midnight rain, stumbling out into the night, clutching at each other, holding each other up, their laughter echoing off the buildings that tower around them, muffled in the drizzle and lost in the clash of advertisements and traffic above. Boots splash through puddles, disrupting the reflections, casting technicolor droplets into the air. The flash of colors play off their skin, shine in their eyes, add shadows to their features that hide the scars, hide the lines of exhaustion. All they feel is elation, young blood flowing through their veins. It keeps them numb like Novocaine. They stumble to their bikes, swinging onto the seats, straddling the leather, plugging in their crystal keys and slapping hands down on the scanners. Keith's bike has a new paint job, swapped in the black and purple for cherry red. Deck out with all the embellishments, bells and whistles, perks of being friends with young geniuses and talented engineers. Their bikes roar to life, hum beneath them with vibrations that reverberate down to their cores, bring life to their bones, settle in them with that familiar thrum of power. They rise off the ground, settling in, gripping the handlebars, revving the engines as they exchange glances, eyes sharp and holding fast, alight with so much, too much, everything. Grins wild and untamed, wide enough to age, crazy enough to be mad, primal in the surge of unkempt delight. Keith takes off first, and Lance is right after him, closing in, keeping pace, racing through the streets, neck and neck, weaving around obstacles, owning the night, owning the lower city, owning this place they've carved out for themselves. Power, speed, freedom, life. They take it easy, no pressure, no stress, no doubts, no fears. They have nowhere to go, just riding for the sake of it. Lance holds onto this feeling, clutches it tight and holds it close to his heart. A long road followed before tomorrow catches up, chasing the night, running from the sunrise. Can't stay here, but can't go home. Caught up in the afterglow.
Lance relishes in it. The chase. The posturing. The spark of adrenaline. The fire that burns. The challenge. The bite of pain. The way his blood sings when he swings. The ache in his bones. Deep in his muscles. Fighting, not for his life, but for fun. Brawls. Just like old times. When he and Keith were young and dumb. Oblivious to the world. Living in the upper city. Looking for a kick. A hit. A taste of something real. Something exciting. They fought then like kids. They fight now like animals. Weapons stored away. They're not here for the kill. They're here for the hell of it. To raise hell. To tear it down. A turf war, yeah, but not with the Empire. Nothing quite so serious. Just some punks. Some upstarts. Thinking they can call out a couple of paladins. Thinking it's smart to run their mouths. In dire need of a lesson. One Lance and Keith are more than willing to give. The backstreet is thick with bodies. On the strip of clubs and drug dens across the city from Voltron. People pouring out into the night. Glazed with the light drizzle of rain. Ignited by the neon lights. A circle forms around them as they size up their opponents. A couple tall. One small, probably fast. A couple built like Ufking tanks. 5 against 2. Lance glances over at Keith. Meets his gaze. Locks in. Feels a shiver sizzle down his spine like lightning when faced with that devilish smirk. One that he's known for a long while. The same one that used to get them in trouble at the garrison. The one that means Keith is confident. Playful. Excited. His boy wants a fight. Wants to feel the impact beneath his knuckles and taste blood on his tongue. Keith's always been an adrenaline junkie. And yeah, if he's being honest, so is Lance. More than that, he's a Keith junkie. And there's a spark of challenge in Keith's eyes that he can't ignore. Feels it tug right at his very bones. Dancing to the strings that Keith pulls. 5 against 2. A fair fight, he'd say. A long fight, but fair. And it's all right. They've got all night. A whole lot of fight in them. Hey, Keith. He cocks his head to the side, then the other, making a show of stretching out his arms, rotating them, cracking his fingers. Yeah. It's more of a grunt than an actual word, edged with a hum of acknowledgement. Keith has no showmanship. Just stands there staring down their opponents. Eyes single-minded and focus. Body practically thrumming with energy, wound tight, curled, poised, ready. Deceptively at ease. A panther ready to pounce. How long do you think they'll last? Keith looks at him then, one eyebrow raised, and Lance just shrugs, gesturing to the others across the growing circle. There's 5 of them and only 2 of us. Great observation, he says dryly. To which Lance only beams. Thank you. Now I'm thinking at least 10 minutes. But they've got a lot of moxie challenging us, so maybe they'll go for a full 30. He tilts his head, calling louder into the crowd while keeping his eyes on the 5. They're spreading out, whispering to each other, cracking their knuckles and puffing out their chests. Pidge, you timing this? Better. I'm filming it. He hears Pidge's reply, even if he doesn't see her. He knows she's in the crowd somewhere with Hunk. It had been simple rounds. Heading around to their dealers. Checking up on Ish. But then this guy got a little handsy with Keith as they were walking through a club. And Keith might have broken his wrist if Lance hadn't beat him to it. Instead, Lance had broken his nose. Push came to shove. A lot of talk was thrown around. Kicked out of the club. Fight on the streets. The usual. Awesome, Lance calls before tilting his head back towards Keith. Smile for the camera, babe. Show off a little so I have something good to watch later. But instead, Keith reels things back, brows furrowed and lip curled. Moxie? Really? What? I'm trying out archaic words. Like it? No. You're no fun. A flash of a smirk. A glint in those dangerous eyes, lidded and dark. He straightens a little. Curving his back just right. Lifting his chin high to show the column of his neck. Gaze raking Lance up and down, slow and purposeful, feeling like hot coals. When their eyes lock again, Lance is left frozen, breath caught in his throat. Keith looks like he's about to eat him alive. Hungry and predatory. Enough if Lance isn't down for that. I'll show you fun later, sharpshooter. A hot curl of arousal unfurls in Lance's gut, heat in his veins and sparks igniting across his skin. Hey, ass. Someone calls. Cutting through their moment. Earning them twin glares as Keith and Lance whip around to scowl at their opponents. To their credit, they don't flinch. Merely hold their ground and scoff. We doing this anytime soon? Right. Something shifts inside him. That heat morphing into something else. Something sharper. Something more focused. Fueling that part of him that always lies just beneath the surface. A beast lurking in the shadows. Eager to lash out. The primal urge to fight. To claw. To win. Lance grins, and he can feel it's a tad too wide. Eyes a tad too sharp. I'm always down for a little foreplay. Keith. Keith licks his lips. Runs that sinful tongue over his teeth. Sucking on his canines. Speaks in a hushed whisper. Private and low. Just between them. Bet I can take down more than you. You're on. Split lips. Bruises blooming on skin, dark when ignited by the neon lights. Blood dripping, tasting metallic, merging with the rain that runs down their cheeks. Scraped knuckles. Aching muscles. The burn. The adrenaline. Young blood running through their veins. Keeping them numb like Novocaine. King and queen of the streets again. Caught up in the afterglow.
Warning. This part contains sexual content. Listen at your own risk.
Lance's apartment is messy. Keith's things mingle with his own, not quite having found their own place yet, and yet Lance can't quite bring himself to mind. Not when it means Keith's here, living with him, sharing his space. Their clutter blends together, one singular mess. Theirs. Home. A trail of clothes lead from the door to the bed, still warm from the body heat, haphazardly discarded in their haste, in their single-minded drive, in their need. He sits back on his bed, surrounded by tangled and wrinkled sheets, back nestled on the pillows, propped up against the headboard. His heels dig into the old mattress, giving himself leverage as he thrusts his hips upward, hard and fast, meeting every bounce of Keith atop him. Keith, straddling his hips, hands braced on the wall, breath heavy, skin slick with sweat, glistening and shining in the lights, flashing through the window and the slow pulse of lights from their electronics. It's hot, it's fast, it's careless and dirty and primal as Lance's nails dig into his thighs, teeth digging into his shoulder. Keith's head thrown back in a low groan, sounding almost angry, completely lost, fingers digging into Lance's hair as he holds on. But as much as Lance likes it, as much as he craves their desperate touches, their needy chase, driving, hunting down their pleasure, he stops his thrusts, hands on Keith's hips to still him. Keith huffs, breath ragged, face confused as he pulls back to look at him. But Lance is wrapping his arms around him, hooking hands beneath his thighs, flipping them over. Their air leaves Keith's lungs in a rush as his back hits the bed, legs automatically wrapping around Lance's hips, fingers digging into Lance's shoulders, head tossed back as Lance begins the slow grind, steady, deep. Keith squirms beneath him, impatient as always, driven toward the finish line, hips aching to speed up the pace once more. Shh, Lance mutters, reaching out to brush Keith's hair back from his forehead, leaving a trail of nipped kisses along his jaw, down his neck to his ear. Just take it easy, he whispers, rolling his hips, loving all of Keith's punched-out gasp. Hold on to this feeling. So he takes Keith slowly, steadily, doesn't need a reason other than he wants to, giving him all of himself, taking everything Keith has to offer, pleasure and pleasure building, building, until they're both tipping over the edge, holding tight to one another, bodies rolling through their high, collapsing together on soiled bed sheets, sweat drying on their skin. Keith sprawls out on the bed, and Lance curls onto his side, nuzzling beneath his chin, peppering in his chest with gentle lips. Keith's fingers run through his hair, lazy and idle. Their breaths slow. Their high dwindles down. They feel the cool of air the night blow in from the open window, listening to the sound of rain ping off the metal fire escape, watching the colors on the wall shift and change in a never-ending kaleidoscope. And they just breathe. Hold on to this feeling. They don't have anywhere to go, caught up in the afterglow.
Allura sits at the head of the table, leaning back in her chair, elbows on the arms, fingers steepled. She's the picturesque of poise. Dressed in fitted, well-cut leather. Long, silver hair braided over one shoulder. Pink tattoos under her eyes glowing with that rad new kind of ink available only in the upper city. A goddamn tiara on her forehead.
Because she's the Pink Paladin, the princess, the head honcho and founder of their growing organization.
She looks elegant and battle-ready. A woman after Lance's own heart. If, his mind, body, heart, and soul hadn't already been claimed by the tall, dark, and handsome firecracker of a man sitting beside him.
The garrison's help, Allura is saying, glancing over at Shiro and inclining her head just a fraction. One that he returns. Off the record, of course, and with our prosperous partnership with the Blade, we should be able to clean the Empire out of the city for good by the end of the year.
For good is a little optimistic, don't you think? Lance leans forward, elbow on the table, chin in his palm. His other hand is firmly seated on Keith's thigh, idly massaging the soft flesh through tight jeans. They won't give up the city easily, and they're like goddamn cockroaches.
Allura nods, eyes sharp, lips pursed. There will always be rats in all sewers, but as long as you clean out the nest, they'll have no foothold. She smiles, wicked and beautiful. We can finally clean up the city, run things our way, only clean drugs run through us. No more human trafficking.
And the garrison is going to give us jurisdiction of the lower city, right? Hunk asks, glancing over to Shiro.
He shrugs his shoulder, offering a small smile. Unofficially, yes. They'll stay out of our business. Let us run the lower city, as long as we stay out of the upper city. They got a lot of guard corruption up there. If we can clean out the Empire, then those people no longer have any backing.
Figures they're eager to let us do their dirty work, Keith grumbles.
It's a beneficial business partnership, Allura says.
And they're going to officially supply us with tech, right? Pidge asks.
To which Shiro nods. Adam and Iverson are working on it.
It's not long before Allura dismisses them, and they all rise from the table. Lance has Keith's hand in his, tugging him toward the door when Allura calls out, Keith, wait. If you could stay a moment. I'd like to speak with you about the blades.
Keith glances over to him, thick brows furrowed, lips pursed. There's an apology in his eyes, and Lance can't have that. So he leans forward, hands sliding out the back of Keith's neck, tilting his head as fingers tangle in his hair.
Keith's lips are plump and smooth. Marred on one side where a split lip is still healing. So pliant and warm as his mouth opens for Lance, so eager and willing beneath his touch.
Lance kisses him long and deep, taking his sweet-ass time, basking in it, pulling out these soft little sounds from Keith.
Until Allura loudly clears her throat.
Lance pulls back, grin stretched, wide as he chuckles, soft and breathy. Come find me! He leans to the side, lips against Keith's ear as he whispers. I'll be waiting.
He slips away, touch lingering. Smile playful as he turns with a flourish. Striding out of the room without a glance back. He leaves Keith to Allura, knowing he'll have him back soon enough.
He stops at the bar to take a shot with Matt, to try Coran's newest drink, leaves his jacket strewn out on a couch on their private balcony. He takes a few hits of his joint before sweeping downstairs with Hunk and Shay. They spiral down the steps to the main floor, where the pulse is strongest, vibrating through their feet, where the lights are bright and blinding, a kaleidoscope of chaos.
He loses Hunk and Shay in the writhing crowd. Isn't too bothered by it. Closes his eyes and moves to the beat. Lets it meld into him, tugging the strings, body lost as his mind drifts.
Keith finds him there, on the dance floor, waiting to be found.
Slides up behind him. Hands on his hips, around his waist, running down his thighs. Lance backs up into him, leans his head back on Keith's shoulder, shivers when he feels Keith's hot breath against his neck. He reaches up, running the fingers of one hand through Keith's hair, the other lying atop Keith's forearm.
And there they move.
He feels Keith against him. Grinds back into it. It's hot in the club. Air thick and humid with body heat and sweat. He can taste the smoke on his tongue. Feels the distant buzz of it settling in his veins. The fire of alcohol curling low. Lights flash behind his eyelids. Lighting up the world in technicolor.
And he feels Keith behind him, strong and steady, an anchor, a support, and yet he knows he's holding Keith up just as much as Keith is holding him. Together, they stand taller than ever, stronger, better.
They're on the dance floor, lost together. Lance loses track of time.
Until there are announcements coming on over the speakers. Coran's voice telling them the party is coming to an end. The sun is rising. Voltron is closing. Can't stay here.
The crowd around them surges. He feels the shift in energy. As the bass grows softer, a mere purr rather than the driving force, the masses stop moving, stop writhing, start petering out and moving in a slow wave toward the exit.
All except for them. Lance doesn't move, stays where he is, just twists around Keith's arms until they're face to face, rests his forehead against Keith's, wraps his arms around Keith's shoulders, presses their bodies tight as he continues to sway.
And Keith moves with him. Arms looped around his waist. Following Lance's lead. Helplessly caught up in his gravity.
And softly, oh so softly, Lance hums in his own melody, sings a song from an era long past, mumbles the words, sings the notes under his breath, fills in the space where the speakers finally turn off.
They keep their heads bowed as the harsh lights of the club turn on, locked away in the dark bubble of space, shadowed by Keith's bangs and their eyelids.
Lance keeps singing gently, filling their little bubble with song, keeping their night going, refusing to let tomorrow catch up.
And Keith sways with him. Holds him tightly. Holds him gently. Presses against him without hurry. Like he has nowhere to go. Nowhere he'd rather be.
He can hear the staff moving around them. Clean up the club, leaving them be.
Neither of them move. Neither of them want to leave this moment. Wrapped up in something close. Something intimate. Something warm.
Something like home.
And when the lights go down, their friends will find them here.
together.
Radiating a contentment that's so hard to find in the lower city. In this crappy world. A love and breath of life that can somehow be found between the fights, past the blood, away from the drugs, somewhere in the shift of day and night, beneath the neon lights.
Taste of something worth living for.
Caught up in the afterglow.
The
The
end.
end.